This is a Dying to Tell You callback.
I just started going to the pool this week. I haven't been able to do that in a long time. It's a way to meet people and make friends, and the extrovert in me is very happy.
As promised last week, this is a follow-up episode with Becca. Becca has been off treatment for some time and has made the decision to forego further treatment. So I wanted to talk with her about how she came to that decision and how she's thinking about her life at this point. It's another great chat with Becca. This is Dying to Tell You. All right, well, this is really a chance for you to update us on what's going on. I've got a few questions, but maybe you can just was it in July that we recorded?
July, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So since July, kind of what's been going on?
Well, in July, I went for my 3-month scan, and it came back no evidence of active disease, much to our surprise. We were thrilled. And so at that point, I was really kind of vacillating back and forth between stopping my treatments for good because of the joint pain and the bone pain and all of that. And that's really where I was leaning. And my doctors convinced me or encouraged me to treat it more as a vacation, like to try and see if it made any difference. And they did say that it was going to take some time for the body to readjust to, not to having hormones again.
Right.
And so we decided on a 2-month break. Yeah. And then I ended up pushing it to a 3-month break because I thought, let's just wait till the scan. And, so
Sure.
I did that. And at first, ironically, I felt worse. Like the first couple of weeks afterwards, I was in so much pain. And I think my body was just kicking back up into gear, and it was not pleasant. And then I started to slowly feel better. Then I had my 3-month scan again. I have them every 3 months. So I had my last one a couple weeks ago, and it was still no evidence of active disease, even though I hadn't had treatment for 3 months. And against my oncologist's advice, he's trying really hard to be supportive, but I can tell that he really would prefer that I continue treatment. However, I have chosen not to do so. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm still not doing treatment of any kind, at least until January. In my mind, I'm done. I've decided I'm done. But I'm also aware that if I do go into that scan and see active disease, that I may very well change my mind. We talked about this last time, of how we think we're going to do things, and then the time comes and we change our mind. So that's kind of where I'm at least through the holidays. I'm not going to do anything. I don't want to do any medication changes or anything like that. And I am feeling so much better physically, emotionally. I still have some pain, but not nearly what I had before, and I feel like I'm getting my life back. So.
You've answered really the question was why, if your treatment was working, right? I guess it was working, no evidence of disease.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why then no more treatment?
Well, I said from the very beginning that if my cancer came back, I wasn't going to treat because I was so miserable the first time. And then my cancer came back, and I decided, okay, I am going to treat. I want to at least try. And I have a history of reacting very poorly to medications in general. That 1% who gets these side effects, and the doctors are like, oh, it never happens. Yeah, that'd be me. Like whenever they say that, I cringe because I'm like, let me show you, it does happen. Yes, I'm so special. Yeah. And in this case, it was no different. I ended up with severe joint pain. And so I had decided, I wanted quality of life over quantity of life. And we discussed this in the last episode. I thought that would be clear, and it is not. It is not easy to make that decision. But after 18 months of treatment and being in a considerable amount of pain day in and day out, and even with a palliative doctor who is amazing and worked miracles. She got me out of the wheelchair. She got me able to do things, but I was still in constant pain. And that's exhausting. And that's not how I wanted to live. And so I struggled with the decision a lot. I have two children. They're both adults, but they're young adults, 20 and 21. And I have a husband whom I love dearly. And, I don't particularly wish to leave the planet at this moment. But after talking to all of them, and they all support me in my decision, I decided that I don't want to waste the time that I do have being sick and in pain all the time. And so, yes, it will probably shorten the time that I have, but the time that I have will be of much higher quality.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're feeling it right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was leery, when I first went off of it and I wasn't feeling that great, I thought, if this is my new normal, then let's go back on it because it's really not worth it. But now that I'm about 3.5 months since I stopped my aromatase inhibitor, and it's a dramatic difference.
Do you have any sense of your prognosis now?
I really honestly think it depends on which doctor you talk to. Because when I talked to my oncologist before she went on medical leave, she thought that even with the treatment I was on, that I was not going to make it to Christmas. Well, Christmas is just around the corner and I'm still no evidence of active disease. But that was her educated guess, was that I would have less than a year because I couldn't tolerate one of the medications that I was on. And I had opted at that point in time not to try any new medications, but I would stay on the ones that I was on already. Now that I've opted not to take anything, I would assume, if she were the one giving me the prognosis, that it would be less than a year. However,
Can we ask?
I have a different doctor now.
That's what
He said that there's no way to give me a prognosis because people don't do what I did. Like, they don't stop treatment. And so there's no studies on people in my situation. However, he did mention, because like I said, he really wants me to get back on treatment. He mentioned, he's like, you can always change your mind. You can always change your mind. And he said, who knows, in 2 to 3 years, there may be medications out there that you can tolerate. And I thought, 2 to 3 years? Are you saying that I can live that long without treatment? And he didn't flat out say that, but the fact that he's mentioning that maybe I'll be here in 2 to 3 years, he won't give me a prognosis. And honestly, at this point, who knows? I just want to be one of those outliers, live 30 years and be like, what happened?
Yeah. What does your palliative doc say? Have you talked to her about it?
So yes, she doesn't do the cancer portion. So she doesn't do prognosis in that term, in those terms. I mean, she did say that. So she works with hospice. She wouldn't be my hospice doctor, but she has worked with hospice in the past, and I believe she still does. She said if it were up to her, she would sign off on me joining hospice. And to be on hospice, you have to have less than 6 months to live. But again, she doesn't know. Nobody knows. And we did decide, after talking to my interim oncologist, that I would not go on hospice. He didn't feel like the resources that they had to offer were what I needed right now. And I would agree. I don't need people coming into the house. I'm still I'm still feel really good. Actually, I feel better than I did before. He did say something. He said something that made me go, huh. He said, hospice resources are limited and there's not enough to go around. So we don't want to waste them if you don't need them. And I had never heard that before. Like, have you ever heard of hospice resources being limited?
Not in that way. No. I mean, I know that they're limited in what they can provide, but not like we have a limited number of people that we can help. And
I guess
you shouldn't use up their. I haven't ever heard that. No, that's interesting. I'm so glad you're feeling well and living life the way you want to live it. What has made you able to drive now that you weren't able to drive before? Just you're feeling better?
That, yes. And when I stopped driving because I was really tired with all the different medications. And I was on opioids and starting all these different medications. And it dawned on me that I hadn't really tried in a while. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try. And I don't drive long distances because I still get very tired and my reflexes just aren't up to par. The pool is a mile from my house.
Yeah.
So that's an easy drive.
Sure.
And I can do stuff like that. The grocery store, those types of things.
You mentioned that your family's supportive of this idea of not ever going back on treatment. What were the conversations like with them? Was it a no-brainer? Was it apprehension, but yes? Or how did they take that from you?
Well, I'll start with my daughter. She called me. She's over on the Oregon coast at school, and she called me last year. I would say maybe 9 months into my treatment, and she said, "Mom, I was talking to my therapist, and we need to talk." And I was like, "Oh no, what is she angry about? Like, what did I mess up?" And she says, "You have always looked out for other people and done things for other people, and I think it's time for you to think about yourself and to put yourself first. And so if you are done with treatment, I want you to know that I support you 100%." So that was my conversation with her. My conversation with my
That's
husband.
pretty easy.
Right? Yeah. Like that
she
was
brought it up to you.
black and white. Right.
Yeah, nice.
Exactly. My husband was a little more nuanced. And the reason is I was raised very, very conservative. Women are to submit to men, that type of thing. And so my husband is very aware that his opinions are really, really influence me. Like, so even though I have left that environment, even though that's not how we live.
It's in there, yeah.
It's ingrained. That male authority thing is very, very, very strong. And so he's very careful about what he says. And so there have been several times when I'm like, "What do you think?" And he won't tell me. He's like, "I don't want to influence you. It's your body, your choice." He said that and got major brownie points with my oncologist. She's like, "Yes." But we did have a conversation a couple weeks ago before I had my scan. And I told him, I really, really want to know. And what he said actually really surprised me, because I thought that he was going to say that he really wanted me to try a little harder, like to stick around. What he said was, "I have watched you in agony for a year and a half, and I don't want to keep seeing that." And he said, "I don't want that to be your life going forward, and I think you should be done."
Wow.
So
how'd that feel?
liberating.
Yeah.
So freeing. I didn't realize, because I want to be fair is not the right word. I want to be considerate to my family, because
Sure.
my husband often says, "Well, this is your life." And I'm like, "No, it's our lives. It's, you will lose, he's going to lose his spouse. My children are going to lose their mother. This affects them. This isn't just my decision." And so having him say, "I would really prefer not to see you in pain," I felt like I could, again, that male authority thing, I felt like I could now do what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But and I don't want it to seem like I want to die. That is not the case. But I think, is it Lonnie, the one that you just aired? Yeah. He made the comment about how he's not afraid of death, he's afraid of dying. And I feel the same way. It's like I don't want to extend that dying process, So
Yeah. I hear it. Yeah. I hear that from a lot of people. And I just don't know that people understand how difficult it is to live a life in pain 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, I've never lived in pain 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've watched people that way, kind of, I mean, in a similar way to your husband, not 24 hours a day like he has, but
Right.
I've seen it, people just struggling to survive, struggling to, not go crazy from the amount of pain that they're feeling. And wishing that they could do anything possible to get out of the pain that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
Living in pain 24 hours a day is just, it's something that you just can't imagine until you've gone through it.
Right.
That's my sense of it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How about your son? He's cool with it?
He is. He's an extremely private person, so I won't discuss him too much. But
Sure.
we did have a conversation. I asked him flat out, "Are you okay with me stopping treatment?" And he said yes. And he's the type of person that I can take at his word. Like I
He
don't
would
have
say
to
no.
pry. Like he would say,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, absolutely," if he had a problem with it.
I feel you lingering, but I don't feel all the time. In fact, the last time that I felt something was when your hand was holding mine. When was the last time that we did that? 'Cause I'm really missing you. It was so
So when I see myself as dying, I see it, which is weird as an atheist to have an afterlife, but that's how I see it. And I don't see it as a switch is going to flip and then all of a sudden I'm not going to be there. I see it as a process. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with, how dying works. I know that some people it seems to take a long time and then some people they die quickly. I don't know what it's going to be like in my case, but I think it'll be more. I think of it more as a process of kind of a journey. That's the word. Like a trip to the next part of life.
I think it's just because of the unknown nature.
Mhm.
And in some ways, and maybe this is just because of what I've seen, but I think that some of life is volitional. That makes sense. I've seen people kind of will themselves to live,
Oh,
not like be alive up and about, but people who are coming to the end of their life, and they're in bed and they're obviously dying,
Mhm.
and they hold on and they hold on and they hold on, and then the person shows up that they wanted to talk to, and then they go, or the person leaves that they wanted to leave, and then they go. I have a sense that some of what I'm doing and some of what people are doing at the end of life is just holding on to being alive. They can kind of will themselves to be alive. And I just imagine myself at this point where I'm ready to let go, in whatever way. And that is really kind of what I'm asking about.
I wonder how much of it will be up to me, when I am ready. And I don't know. I have so much more peace about this whole dying process now that I'm not on treatment, which is weird because it's probably closer because I'm not on treatment. But I think it's because I've made that decision. And I feel like I'm not in angst over fighting a fight that I don't want to be fighting. You know what I mean? And so now I'm just at peace with it. And it's like, if I have 6 months, then I will live the hell out of those 6 months. If I have 30 years, that would be fabulous. And I dream about that. I think not literally dream, but I hope for that. I would love to retire with, to be there when my husband retires and to see my grandchildren if my children choose to have children. And honestly, this is going to sound morbid. I don't mean it in a morbid way. I want to bury my parents.
Yeah.
Like I want, like, I don't want to die before they do.
Yeah.
And so
they don't want that either, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's backwards. It's not the way that things are supposed to be. And I want to be there with my siblings when we have to deal with all of that afterwards, And so I'm hoping for a lot more years. And it does happen. And it's interesting because when I was first diagnosed, I would get mad, literally angry when people would say, "Oh yeah, but some people, not everybody dies. Like you could live for a really long time." And I would be like, "You are minimizing what I'm going through." And that's how I felt. I felt like they were minimizing the severity of my diagnosis.
Mhm.
And now when people are like, "I had an aunt who lived 20 years after," and I'm like, "Yes, write that down. Anybody else? Any other stories?" Because I want to be
Right.
that person, I want to
Sure.
be living in 30 years.
Yeah.
I want to outlive my cat.
Well, maybe you will. Maybe you
Maybe
will.
it's possible.
So, if you have 6 months, you're going to live the hell out of the 6 months. What does that look like? What are you doing besides swimming?
Honestly, living in every moment. And I did a Substack post about this week. Monday was a fabulously perfect day. And it was just normal. Like it was just normal things. I made strawberry shortcake. I, got a couple packages in the mail, and you know, I, that's what I want to do over the next however long I have, is to just be here, be present, be vibrant. And that is part of, I didn't feel like I could be vibrant when I was undergoing treatment.
Yeah.
I was so
Yeah.
sick and in so much pain that I didn't feel like I could live, I could enjoy the moments. So like I planted a whole bunch. I planted, I think, 250 bulbs a couple weeks ago that are supposed to grow, the crocuses, things that are going to grow early in the spring, because I
Okay.
didn't know how long I would have. And so I want to enjoy those. I want to see them peek through the snow, and
Uh-huh.
the color that comes back after all that white for months on end. And that's what I want to do. I want to,
Sure.
yeah, just live in the excitement of life.
Yeah. That's really instructive, I think, for people who are not sick. I think we have this idea about bucket lists. That
Mm,
movie that made the bucket list thing uh, popular may have done us a little bit of a disservice, because I find that most of the time, people who are actually sick, who are actually coming to the end of their life, there are some people who have things they want to do, like a trip
yeah,
they wanted to take or whatever. But for the most part, it's I want to get up and have coffee with my spouse. I
right.
want to I want to eat good meals with my family. I want to
Mm,
spend time planting flowers. I want to, you know, go sit in my hot tub. Just
yeah, yeah,
normal everyday things. They just want to like soak up life the way that life is. And I mean, hello. All of us can do that
right.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me want to go really pay attention to life. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, the whole bucket list. I'm on the fence. I grew up in France. My parents were missionaries there. So I've been toying with the idea of taking a trip to France, but it's it's exhausting. It's hard on the body. And it's like
Yeah.
I would love to have those memories, but are they going to cost me other memories? Like what I
Mm,
mean by that is if I travel to France, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be in a lot of pain, and it will take me a while to recover. Will I be forsaking other experiences at home because I'll have to be in bed to recover when I get back? But then, so I don't know. I'm kind of
mm,
weighing it. I think, just to say, I think that the bucket list sometimes is overrated. I think it's more the planting the flowers, at least for me and my personality. Those
yeah.
little things matter more.
Yeah. No, I mean for me too. I'm a slow person. I like to be at home. I
Mhm.
like I like quiet most of the time. I used to really, I used to want to not be that, but I've come to accept that
Yeah.
that's what I am.
Yeah.
So, which is okay. It's okay. Have you added anything? Is there anything outstanding besides the France trip?
Just the France trip, pretty much.
Um, what else? What else do you want to say? What else do you want people to hear from you? A person who's decided that treatment wasn't giving you what you wanted, even though it was working, which I think is fascinating.
I would say remember that you are in the driver's seat.
Hmm.
Um, I had a conversation with someone last week who was struggling with where she was at, and she really felt like her doctors were saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, and she did what her doctor said, and she was so sick, and she kept saying, this is what I was trying to avoid. And I was listening, and I didn't say this to her, but my thought was, you forgot that you're in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
The doctors can have their opinions. It's their job to keep us alive. That is what they are going to strive to do. But we get to make the decisions as to whether we are willing to put up with the cost of staying alive.
Yeah.
And I am very fortunate in the sense that my family supports my decision. And I have heard from many, many, many people where that is not the case. And so I would like to say to people who are listening who are not the patient, who are the caregiver or the family members, to remember how hard your loved one is fighting. And maybe they need to hear from you that it's okay to stop. And we may even assume that they know. I think my husband probably assumed that I knew. I didn't know. I didn't know I thought he wanted me to keep fighting. And so I would just encourage people to have those conversations and to let their loved ones go when the time is right.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I know it's hard.
It is hard. It's hard to watch loved ones suffer through treatment.
Mhm.
It's hard for somebody to live through treatment. It's hard for somebody to live in pain. I think it's just important for us all to remember that we're the only ones experiencing what we're experiencing. You know, the person living with cancer is the only one here living with cancer, right? You're the only one in your household living with cancer having to go through this treatment.
Mhm.
Everybody to have a little bit of humility is probably a good idea to
Yeah.
go. If you had talked to your husband and your husband had said, I understand that it is really difficult what you're doing, and I'm not ready to say goodbye yet. Would you please continue? Do you think that would have changed your decision?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I say that to a point. Um, I would have likely gone back on the aromatase inhibitors. Um, I don't think that I would do chemo or anything like that. And I would have that honest conversation with him about how utterly miserable chemo would make me. And just
Mhm.
that's not living.
Yeah. I mean, that question really was about, because just like it's important for people, for loved ones, put themselves in the shoes or to trust the experience of the
Mhm.
patient. I think it's also okay for the patient to take into account the experience of their family.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a delicate balance. It's a little bit of it's a dance, right? I mean, just
Right.
like a negotiation, maybe, like you were saying. Because yeah, I mean, I have seen people who, well, Bob. I mean, you listen to
Yeah.
Bob, and I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe the portion of his interview that we aired didn't hit on this quite as hard, but Bob went through treatment so that he could be around for his wife,
Hmm.
and he was miserable, I think,
Right.
on
Right.
his treatment. But he did it. He did it with purpose.
I did that when my cancer came the first time and it was stage 2. I went it was horrible, but I had young children. And I think if my children were still young, I probably would make different choices. You know, to I wouldn't want them I don't want them to lose their mother this young as it is, but they are adults and they are standing on their own 2 feet. If they were still young, I would definitely make different choices.
Sure. Yeah. When would be the time for hospice for you?
That is a good question. I need to go and actually interview. I'd like to talk to the hospice providers in the area and kind of get a better idea of the services that they provide. I know, I've done some research. My daughter has actually called around for the different ones to kind of see which ones seem better for us, for
Mhm.
me. Well, no, us, because it's for the family.
Sure.
Um, but I need to ask them more questions. My understanding of hospice as it sits right now, I would say that I would probably want to get on when it becomes difficult for me to get places. So right now I have a physical therapist, but I can go to him. When it gets to the point where it is challenging for me to make my physical therapy appointments, having somebody come into the house to do physical therapy would definitely be really helpful. And so I think that when I become less mobile, that would definitely probably be the time.
Sure.
But again, I don't know what other resources they have. But I think it would be at a when I deem it that those resources will be helpful to me and or to my family members.
Sure. I'm wondering if any of your thoughts about your spirituality or the church or any of that has changed, or your feelings about any of that has changed since we talked.
No, I think it's where I'm at. I'd say the only thing that has really changed is that I'm being more vocal about it, especially on Substack with my account there. I'm just talking about it more, and I plan on doing that going forward, which is important to me. Especially growing up in an environment where you didn't question it. It's taken a long time for me to be able to say this. I question this. I don't understand this, and just
Yeah.
putting that out there. Even listening to that episode, when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, I said that. Like, really, I said that? Like, God's gonna zap me, and I'm like, remember, you don't believe in God.
Yeah. That's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Like, please don't.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. One thing that patients and family members of patients have said to me in the past, and I've had to kind of hone my response, is they will say to me something along the lines of, "Oh, my faith is so important to me. I can't imagine how somebody could go through this and not have Jesus, or not have the very same faith that I have," basically.
Right.
Like, I don't know how people not like me can go through this. Yeah, what would you say to that?
I can say, having been an evangelical and now being an atheist, there is comfort. There is comfort to be found outside of that narrow system of belief. I find myself freer and actually more at peace now that I no longer believe that. And I know that's going to be extremely difficult for a lot of people to understand. I wouldn't have understood it. 15 years ago, I would have never thought I would say that, because I found all of my comfort from my faith. And having left that behind, the world is it's so much more colorful, so much more nuanced. But
Like,
yeah.
You're much freer, for sure, not bound by those things that you thought you were bound by. Right. But there is comfort there in the wider world. Where do you find the comfort? Where do you find comfort?
I find comfort mostly in myself. And that was something that you couldn't say growing up. Like, pride was one of the top sins, and you can't be proud of yourself. But I looked at myself and my life and who I am in this moment, and I said, this is who I've wanted to be. This is who I've wanted to be my entire life. And I am now who I've always wanted to be. And I find comfort in that. I find comfort in being genuine and being. I often tell my daughter, no matter what you do, someone's going to be upset. Like, someone will think that you made the wrong decision. So just make your decision, like, based on what you want to do, who you want to be. And so I find comfort in that, in being genuine and being who I want to be. As for what comes next, I find comfort in the fact that there are thousands and thousands of different beliefs. I don't think you can find maybe if you within a same like faith system, but most people differ in some way or another on what they think comes next. And that can be really freeing and comforting in the sense of, let's find out. Like, we're gonna get to find out. And I find it unlikely that there would be a vindictive God who would condemn you to an eternity of torment because you didn't believe one way when there are so many other beliefs. Like, that seems very unlikely. Like, why would you get picked? Why would I get picked if I were a believer over all of the other people who don't believe? And so I find comfort in that, in saying, again, the world is so colorful. There are so many different beliefs, different faiths, different expectations of what is after life. And yeah, we'll just find out.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Thinking about the other side, whatever comes after death. Yeah, I could be fearful of it because it is unknown, but I could also be excited about it because it's unknown. It's like the last thing that's unknown. It's the last thing that's going to be revealed to me. Yes, you really could be excited. Not so excited that you're rushing to it, but when when the time comes, it will be you could be excited about it for sure. You gonna come tell us what you decide in January?
Sure.
I hope you get such a good holiday season. I hope you just feel amazing.
I am really excited because I'm going to be able to be there to see my family and be with my family for my birthday, which I haven't been able to do for years.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this holiday season.
Thanks for giving us an update. I'm glad that's all happened, and I'm glad you're feeling well. And I'm eager for you to celebrate your birthday with your family. That'll be good. Cool.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, we'll talk again soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Becca, for being so open, honest, and vulnerable. I so appreciate your willingness to share your life and your thoughts with us. I think there's a lot to learn from what you shared, and I'll say more about that next week as I reflect on our conversations. Thank you as always to the producer, Chris Rock, and thank you to the I Love School of Theology for helping this podcast to happen. Until next week, do what needs to be done, say what needs to be said, and live your life with intention and purpose. This is Dying to Tell You.